A lot of athletes these days think they're above the law.
You're out of order! You're out of order! The whole trial is out of order!
Let's get an inside look at the legal side of sports.
Rick Calzada always gives us an inside look at the legal side of sports. He is, of course, one of the partners at My Law Solution over in Winter Park. He's my lawyer, so let My Law Solution be your law solution. You can check him out at mylawsolution.com. You can also give him a call at 407-843-2222. That's 407-843-2222. Do you guys still do weekend consultations, Rick?
We do from time to time.
Wow. You shy away from it, though, right?
I try not to, but...
But one of the few law firms who actually do weekend consultations. All right, Rick, I want to start. We're going to go all college football today because college football is in a state of disarray, all right? Let's start with the Gators. Their star wide receiver, we've talked about him before, Antonio Callaway. He returns to campus after a mysterious suspension, but the school's not saying a word. They're not saying a word about this. Callaway's attorney, Huntley Johnson, is doing all the talking. Any theories as to why the school has remained silent and Huntley Johnson is the guy doing the talking?
First of all, I admire Florida for not spilling the beans on these things like other schools do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just.
It's amazing it hasn't come out.
I don't understand how you get away with it, but you know, from a fan perspective, looks like you're going to get your player back,
mm-hmm.
right? I have a suspicion that this has to do with academics. That's my suspicion. All right, it's pure speculation on my part, but it seems as it's internal rules, and then the internal rules have student protections, and that's why the university is not coming out and spilling more information regarding this.
Although
and the fact he's not in school leads me to believe that there was something that happened maybe during exams, finals in December. And he's been suspended, you know, pursuant to student rules rather than something, you know, criminal.
Although his attorney, Huntley Johnson, originally said it was a student code of conduct. I guess that could be.
But cheating on an exam would certainly fall there.
Yeah.
And that's a classic case of that.
My theory is, and again, just a theory,
sure,
is that Florida has actually learned from all the scrutiny that Florida State got during the Jameis Winston investigation and that Baylor is now getting, and that there's some sort of, again, I don't know this, some sort of federal Title IX investigations going on, and they are crossing every T and dotting every I, making sure everything's done by the book and erring on the side of whatever the word. Safety, caution.
I mean, it certainly is a possibility, but it sounds to me as if it's not a federal investigation as opposed to a university investigation.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, a university Title IX investigation. That's what my theory is. But again, I don't know that for a fact, and nobody knows it for a fact, or it would have been reported well before now.
And will we ever find out?
I don't know.
That's the question.
Here's the other thing. Everybody's talking about Antonio Callaway. There's another player involved here, Treon Harris, who was the quarterback last year. Nobody's talking about him.
Well, and that's why I kind of lean towards the academic fraud issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, two players, you know, very close, maybe sharing information regarding the exams. That's why I kind of went that way with it as opposed to something a little more nefarious.
All right, speaking of nefarious, Stanford. They have a swimmer who got a mere 6 months in jail. And if you've read the documents here, he raped an unconscious woman behind the dumpster after both he and she had attended a fraternity party. Now, the father of the rapist is getting barbecued, just absolutely lambasted nationally for saying his son has suffered enough. The judge is under fire for evidently, for a lenient sentence, it would seem. 6 months in jail for this. Did you read the story I sent you, and why do you think the sentence was so light?
All right, so I'm going to try to spin this in the light most favorable to the victim.
Okay.
Because she certainly deserves that.
Okay.
All right. And in doing this, I read her 12-page letter that she read out loud at sentencing directed to the rapist.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
I believe that if the individual, the rapist, had gotten 6 to 8 years, this would not have been a national story. But the fact that he only got 6 months made it a national story and has given the victim a platform from which she's doing an unbelievable job of putting it out there that all these victims can stand together and learn from her and that she stands with them. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at this in a favorable light because I don't think it would have happened if he got the 6 to 8 years.
I understand.
That being said, the 6 months is ridiculous. It's a joke, especially when you read the facts of the case. I mean, he didn't just rape her. He dragged her through woods, basically, behind a dumpster. And the only reason he got caught was two individuals.
Passers-by,
just two Swedes were riding their bikes and saw it happen and took action. And oftentimes
they chased him down.
They took action. They chased him down, caught him, and called the police. Or else he might have got away with it. And she would have never known what happened because
she woke up and still didn't know.
She had no idea anything happened to her. They had to tell her, no, you are a victim of an assault. So if I don't think it's because he's an athlete per se. I do believe it's the white privilege issue.
I think part of it, too, was the judge said, and I'm paraphrasing here, a harsh sentence would ruin his life.
Well, that's what the dad is getting barbecued for.
The judge said it, too.
The judge said it as well. Mm-hmm. And, her statement was, my life is ruined because of this. We were both drinking. I didn't rape somebody else. I didn't assault somebody else. I didn't drag someone through the woods. But he did. How can he get 6 months? She's living it every day. And her story is so heartfelt because she talks about the damage to the family. She was out with her sister that night. Her sister feels guilty. Her parents don't feel like they were there for you to help. And so how can he get 6 months? Because the sentence would be tough on him. If he were black, I'm sorry, he would got a lot bigger sentence than 6 months.
Okay, but the Baylor football player, Sam Ukwachu, who was convicted of rape, he also got a 6-month sentence with a long probationary period.
Correct. And that is an unbelievable sentence. I don't know where the 6 months for rape comes in because it's just news to me where 6 months comes in. But
to me, Rick, it's almost like the judicial system is as much of a problem with rapes on campus and the rape epidemic as anything.
In the Baylor case, the jury came back with probation only. The judge stepped it up to 6 months, if you can believe that. And apparently, and I don't know Texas law on this, but he gave the max based on whatever happened with the jury. He maxed at 6 months. So the judge came in going, no. Probation is not going to be enough here, and he went full 6 months on this.
So the judge gave as much as he could.
In the Baylor case, the judge did, but the jury didn't. And I have to wonder if that's a small-town mentality.
Boys will be boys?
Protect the team. By then, they knew he was a prospective Baylor football player, and maybe the jury took that into account.
You mentioned the white privilege angle.
Yes.
The Washington Post headline on this story was All-American swimmer found guilty of sexual assault, whereas the last 3 or 4 instances where they had a front-page African-American accused of it, they used the word rape in the headline.
Right.
They also have a smiling picture of him in a suit and tie, and all of the black men have their mugshots.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, speaking of Baylor, I wasn't here last week when you guys talked about Baylor. Quick synopsis of whether Art Briles, the fired coach, and demoted president Ken Starr are criminally liable for the sexual assaults that happened on Baylor's campus. Now, Starr reportedly got an email from a woman who said she was raped by football player Tevin Elliott, who then went on to rape another woman on campus. Aren't school administrators, shouldn't they be held legally accountable?
All right, so I looked into this because I knew this was coming. After Penn State, Florida created a law that says that a school administrator, a university administrator, must report child abuse. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, the school can be hit with a $1 million fine. Okay? Currently, there is no mandatory reporting for a university administrator to report an allegation of a rape to authorities.
Okay? In Florida.
Correct.
Okay.
Currently, there is none. But if the legislature came up with the penalty for child abuse, certainly they can come up with a penalty for sexual assault under Florida law. No doubt about it.
They should.
They should do it, and it's very easy to do. They did it right after Penn State. So I have a feeling that this is going to be addressed in the next legislative session. It should be.
I think in Florida high schools, if I'm not mistaken,
child's different.
that's a child.
Under
Okay.
18. So there are mandatory reporting requirements for children and vulnerable adults. Vulnerable adults being impaired, not from drinking, but from a disability per se. Okay, so if it's a child or a vulnerable adult, mandatory reporting, but not for a regular adult. And maybe that's what needs to change.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Take your lawyer shirt off for a minute. Just as a citizen of the United States, do you think these guys should be legally liable?
If an employer hires an employee, okay, and they didn't do their due diligence on him, a background check, if you will, and that employee commits a crime from his employment, the employer can be held liable. So same thing should be passed with a university. So if the university knows that there is a dangerous student on campus, that university should have a duty to remedy the situation by kicking him out of school or else suffer the consequences of his future acts.
Very, very interesting. So I'm sure Texas has the same laws that Florida. There is no law that says you legally have to report.
I don't know of any Texas law that says that you have to report a sexual assault that you didn't view yourself. Now, there's a difference, okay? So if I am out there and like the two people on the bike, Florida does have a requirement that if you see it happen, okay, and you're not in any danger, you need to report it. You have to report it, but not from hearing it hearsay.
Gotcha. Rick Calzada, he's the best in the business. If you're fighting a bank to save your home from foreclosure, whether you're a defendant in a criminal matter like a DUI or in need of a bankruptcy to protect your assets, My Law Solution is your law solution. Check him out at mylawsolution.com. Rick, we appreciate it.
Happy summer.
Rick, we appreciate it.
Happy summer.
Rick.